In my previous video we were exploring sound reproduction, our concepts that we'll know as audiophiles, how sound is recorded and played back through our equipment, and what is wrong with that picture. So if you want to have a look at that, in that introduction, look at the previous video. Please watch that before you watch this video first. And I ended that video in this note, with this note, that what there is in the subconscious of audiophiles today, how recordings are done, how they are played back. There is this key element that is actually generally missing, and that is the original acoustic space in the recording. This is my personal experience, that when the recording reflects the acoustic space of the event, then it has a very high degree of realism to the recording. And in my experience, what makes a recording lifelike and real is not the detail level, it's not the pinpoint imaging, it's not the spatial separation of the instruments, it's not the frequency range, it's not the dynamic range. All of these are just aspects. It's like ingredients in a soup, which may or may not contribute to the feeling of realism of a musical reproduction. However, what these concepts, what these elements all contribute to is how grand the sound reproduction is, how showy it is, how big of a show, what kind of big presentation we get. But what I've been noticing after listening to high-end audio for decades is that when the recording is done with the explicit strategy to maximize detail level, maximize clarity, maximize frequency range, maximize dynamic range, individually miking all of the instruments, taking an excessive time with the mastering, adjusting everything, every tiny little thing, having a recording studio with a lot of acoustic absorbing panels, a very, very highly artificial environment. That really, I think that's where the whole experience as a whole breaks down. Yes, we do get a very spectacular show, a very spectacular performance, but it doesn't feel like a live concert. It doesn't feel like you are there. And why is it happening, and what's the reason for that, and what makes that feeling for me? When do I experience liveness of a recording? Or I would say there are different types of liveness that you can experience from stereo systems, and I want to delve into that a little bit, because all of these aspects are also pertaining your different mindsets, and they are conducive to very different kinds of experiences, and sadly this type of philosophy that we have now in high-end audio, to get the most detail level, to get the greatest show, it puts your mind, your attention into a mindset where you stay on the surface. You are a superficial listener, and when you want to get deeper, all the depth you get is just a heightened focus, concentration on the details, and you won't be able to get to the, as you would say, the soul of the music, the heart of the music. You won't get closer to the people playing the instruments. You won't get into their minds. Where you will get is their instruments. So this approach that we have currently in high-end audio leads you to be enamored with the instrument's sound, with the complete neglect of the human behind it. And I also have to add that you will get like a perverted addiction to music instruments, because that's not how they sound in real life. That's how they sound, as if you were listening to them at a distance, at a listening position that never occurs when you are listening to that music instrument. That's why high-end audio recording, not everyone, because there are some recordings which do not record that way, but that is the tendency to record in a way to heighten the detail retrieval from the instruments, and that breaks down the integrity of the performance. And the result of that is that it brings the music to your room. And when you have recordings where the original acoustic space is preserved, then you are brought to the event when the music was recorded. So that's how I myself feel it, that when I listen to a modern high-end system, like going to a showroom, listening to a very expensive system, playing an audiophile recording, it sounds like the musicians are teleported into the room, and those invisible people are giving us a grand show. And after that, all you remember is the addiction to the stereo gear, to the equipment that played the music, and the music itself did not touch you, just the sound, the surface of how it sounded. And when you have a music system that is optimized to reproduce recordings with original acoustic space, then you don't even remember how it sounded. All that you remember is the music itself. And after experiencing that, you will be looking into the performer who performed it, into the musicians, the person who wrote the music, and you will be seeking out more and more of their music. And you won't be seeking out equipment manufacturers of stereo gear. So I think the basis and foundation of a healthy audio system is that when you listen to the music, then you get interested in the music and not in the audio gear. So I think that's like a critical difference between audio systems is not just like the detail retrieval, because I found that when the original acoustic space is the key priority of a recording, there is still a lot of resolution, still a lot of detail, but that's not where your focus, where your mind, where your attention is forced. So in these recordings, let your mind focus on the performance, and if you want to be an audiophile, you can put your attention, and really you can notice that all that detail is still there. You can find all that detail, but it's not shoved in your face. It's kind of like when you are courting a person of the opposite sex, or maybe same sex, if you are attracted to the person, then you are basking in their beauty at a healthy distance, and you can choose whether you want to go closer to them or you want to go further away from them. And that is the feel that you get when you have the original acoustic space in the recording, a system that can present that. And when you have a high-end system with a recording manufactured for maximum detail level, is like having that person shoved into your face, so you are forced to smell their sweat and then see their pores on the skin like this big, and you don't even have the chance to step and just really see the beauty. You are forced to just have that magnifier experience, like people glued to porn on their screens and just watching everything zoomed up. And that's the equivalent in audio with high-end audio. So now, how is what is the original acoustic space? So now I'm going to show you something here, and this is an actual opera house. This is the opera, actually it's called the Szegedi Nemzeti Színház. So this is a kind of like the opera house in Szeged, that's in southern Hungary. And I have it here because when I went to university there, I used to frequent this concert hall many times, and saw a lot of wonderful not just saw but heard a lot of wonderful performances here. And I thought I'm just going to show it. It's really a beautiful venue. It's not a giant opera house. It still looks good, really big if you look at it, but if you look at the opera houses in the world, which are like the most expensive, grandest, biggest opera houses, they are a lot bigger than this. But to have a great experience, you don't need something oversized like Titanic Plus. Just a regular opera house can be absolutely beautiful experience. And here, yes, this I already talked about this. What I wanted to say, that with the modern audio, with high-end today, is they are bringing the performers into your room, and also it's faking an alien room acoustics into your room. So to me it always feels gimmicky. Yeah, it feels like I'm in a totally different room, but my brain does put it together that this is just fake. And yes, if you go to a showroom or to a friend's place and you listen to it, wow, you think, okay, this sounds like I'm being there. But if it's not your friend's place, it's your own place, you own that system and you live with them and you listen to it, then after a while your brain can piece it together. That's not how it sounds there at the original venue. It's really something that the system is trying gimmicks to fake it. And after a while you become unhappy, and then you get the itch to upgrade your system. And then if you can upgrade it, nowadays it's getting harder and harder because the prices are just completely bonkers and an absolute nonsense. What the high-end audio prices today are just ludicrous. And also the gear, as Jimmy just shared in a comment, that's what he noticed, that when he goes to audio shows, then the sound is kind of the same as it used to be years ago, but the equipment look more gaudy, more ostentatious, and the things are just getting exponentially more expensive. So it is not something that anyone really wants to have in their home. Even if you can afford it, they just look so ugly that I wouldn't want the majority of high-end gear anywhere in my house. And I think Nelly would not let me bring such ugly stuff into the house anyway. So, and then Jimmy also said that the equipment he built sound just as good or even better as what he hears in the showrooms, and that's what I myself noticed, and that's why I created the channel, so that to help you, all of us audiophiles around the world, do a little bit of healing, and to let go of the notion that you need like $1 million system to be happy. No, you don't need much money, you just need resources and skills. My mentors too told me that it is not a challenge, it is not an accomplishment to build a good sounding system with exorbitant resources, with unlimited part selection, with unlimited money. Anyone can do that. It's a no-brainer. The challenge is to have just a given budget, to have limited parts, limited resources, limited conditions, and bring out the most out of it. Now, that's a challenge, and that is something that where I resonated with my mentor, and I felt the same way. And initially, I resonated with that because I was a poor PhD student who didn't have any means to get an audio note system, audio note level 5. But I learned like very fast, and I just during the early years of my audiophile training, in a couple of years I transitioned from being in a state where I can't even afford the most basic audio gear, and even like the cheapest Bauer Wilkins speaker, like the DM301, and the cheapest NAD amplifier. It was kind of like almost like a wow, like a big wow for me when I started. And then a couple years later, even like the Rotels and the big Bauer Wilkins speakers, they sounded absolutely horrific to me, and I just sped by them. And then you can do that too, and I'm here to help a little bit to get our bearings. And what I did is that I stopped my fascination with this with the rat race of extreme priced gear, and I looked more at the old school gear and old school technology, old school thinking, where people had much more restrained technical possibilities around them, much less parts choices. Everything was a lot more limited, and with those limited parts, limited materials, they could achieve so much more than with that mindset than people achieve with this extreme resources that we have today. And then with that kind of mentality, when I build my speaker with the ability that I have today, with that half a century more advanced technology compared to half a century ago, and just apply the advancements where it's required, but keeping the old school mentality, the old school wisdom, not just superficial knowledge, wisdom applied at gear synergy, and not just building an amplifier, building a speaker, but creating the synergy between them. Then I reach what I'm really looking for in music. My goal is not the sound. Yeah, sound is fun, but for me, the fascination with sound, it fascinates me for half an hour. if an audio equipment sounds phenomenal, its maximum limit for me is like half an hour, but probably after 5 minutes I'm bored with it, and yeah, it was fun, great, but do you want to listen to it again? No. It was fun. I'm glad to hear it, but I don't want it in my house, and I'm not interested in going in that direction. Where I am interested and what fascinates me endlessly is to be at the performance, to create it, not just listening to the sound, but taking me to the performance when it's happening right there. The audio system with the recording can create not just the sound, it can create the experience, a whole body experience that you are at the time back many years ago when the performance happened, and you are right there, and the person, if it's like, let's say, a pianist playing, Byron Janis playing his piano, then you are there with Byron Janis, and it's happening right now. It's not a mass-produced recording that you are hearing for the 100th time, and it's like exactly the same and blah blah blah, boring, but it's a unique experience, and each time you listen to it, it's a unique experience because something new is born, new is created, and which was never before and never again. And that's why when you have this old school type of system, old school type of performance recordings, then each time you listen, it's drastically different. And because you are there when the experience is created, and a lot of it depends on you. How much do you connect with that performance? Do you want to connect with it? That's the number one question. Because if you don't want to, you are not interested in it, then no one in this universe can force you to make that connection. And this is why there's no one type of equipment in this world that's good for everyone. That's why there's a lot of people who will prefer the modern representation, the modern interpretation of high-end audio, because for that you don't have to make any commitment on your own. You don't have to be willing to create a connection between yourself and the performer. All you need to do is just listen and be a completely passive subject, and listening to an objective event that has absolutely nothing to do with you. When you are presented, you are teleported to the performance, doing the time travel, you are connected to the performer. That is very much an active work on your part as well. You are working with the performer. I don't know if you have learned about the philosophy of music, but a lot of it talks about that the music is the interaction between performer and the person and the audience who is listening to the performer, and that's why it's deeply intimate, deeply subjective. And if you are binging on reviews, objective reviews about sound, it has nothing to do with music experience. And that is why there's so many systems that have reviews for amazing sound quality, but you buy it and you play your music on it and it doesn't do anything. The first week you are amazed how good it sounds at the detail level, transparency, imaging, whatnot. But after that you are already looking on Craigslist what else to get, because you are not enjoying any of your music, because because you cannot make a connection to the music. You want to make the connection, but you cannot, because the way it's presented to you, it's not conductive. It doesn't open a channel between you and the music. And 50% of that is the audio equipment. So the audio equipment is the one that opens the channel, that says, okay, you can connect to the music deeply or not. And then the layer beneath that is the recording. The recording is the one that contains all the event and the way it's recorded, and also the performance itself. Some recordings and some performers let you connect to the music extremely deeply, and that's because the performer, the musician, has that ability to connect to you as a listener. Not all musicians have this ability. You will notice that when you listen to music, that there are some musicians who can translate music to you so that it goes directly to your soul. These are the ones who can create a channel that goes very deep into your soul. And the recording and the mastering is kind of like a filter that can either allow this connection or choke down this connection to a tiny pinpoint. And even with modern audiophile recordings, which are recorded for maximum detail level, instrument separation, pinpoint image, there's like a modicum, a tiny bit of pinhole that you can connect to it, provided you play it on a stereo system that has that connection open to you. But when you go to a recording that's maximized for that connection, it will be just staggering how deep you can get into the music. And when that happens, it's always like a life-changing moment. And I had those moments, and they were just like kind of like falling off a cliff. That kind of experience, that deep when it happens, and you can't even miss it. and that's why for me, just the superficial sound, what is the detail, is it similar to how one specific recording is compared to what's on the recording. Now one specific recording to me doesn't mean anything, because it can sound, a recorded event can exactly sound like how it sounded sitting there in the mastering engineer's room, but if it's not the music I want to connect to, it's not practical for me. I have, and not just you, everyone, all of us, there's like millions of recordings of recorded music on the planet, and I want to have the option to connect to most of them, or to the ones that I found that I am drawn to connect to. And then maybe even if there's a recording studio that records music that can be absolutely well correlated to the live sound, but there's just one music, and it's kind of like you can eat one food on and that's it. Is that life? Maybe for you it is, but it is for all of us audiophiles to think about it. What is it you want? Do you want to specialize to a single music, a single dish in your life? And if you do, maybe you do, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's your purpose, go there and go for it. If you are lucky to find that there's like one recording studio that makes all your favorite music, then you are in heaven, and then you are home. That's it. Then it's very easy for you. But most of us are not that. Most of us have a wide range of music that we want to enjoy, and we want to get the most out of it. And also, not just that, but exploring music. And with this time traveling thing, what I myself realized is that as throughout the years and decades, my taste in music has changed, and what I like and what I want to listen to has greatly changed. And I could call this like the maturation of my music listening habits. And what I found in the past 5-10 years, I already had the seeds of it 20 years ago, is that the deepest experiences I get from music is going back in time and listening to music that was recorded in a very, very different era from today. The the more the time distance between me and the recording, the more striking the experience to listen to it. Because when you have a stereo system that can recreate the acoustic space of the recording, that can take you to the era of that recording, then it really feels like I am back in 1950 or 1925, and how it felt like that. The air feels different, my body feels different, the vibration of the world, it feels the world was so different. And all of these recordings capture all that information. So if you want to experience how life was 100 years ago, don't watch TV documentaries, even though those are really good, and there's some black and white films from a long time ago, but there's something that the visual experience of films turns off the imagination. And when you have auditory cues, that turns on your brains and turns on your inner world and connected ability. And listening to really old recordings, really old events, it just unpacks such an amount of information. And yes, there's less detail, less resolution, less dynamic range, more noise, yada yada yada, more and more of everything, which is an imperfection. But there's also that envelope, that acoustic envelope of what Earth was half a century or a century ago, what mankind was. And that's not something that you can experience normally. That's almost like a transcendental experience, like connecting to the soul of mankind 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You can live what it was to live at the time of your grandfathers or great grandfathers or grandmothers, and it was drastically different. It was just it. Whenever I'm listening to recordings made in the 20s, 30s, 40s, it's an absolutely transformative experience. I'm under their spell for months after that, and often I do is just I just put on like a recording, and I experience it, and then after that for a month I don't even want to listen to put on any music, because that music is in me, and my being, my soul is working out the experience, and I'm still immersed in that. It still resonates in me. It's just so profound, like extremely profound experiences, which is the exact opposite of going to a high-end audio show. You just select things from your playlist and just like a 30-second snippet. Oh, it can do, look at that special effect, wow, too, you heard the drum snap, how snappy it was, like wow, this is 15.7% more dynamic than this and that other brand, and nonsense like that. Who even cares about that, and who even like came up with these kind of comparisons, and why do we get sucked into such nonsense? And the reason for that is, yes, because our brains, the logical side, the rational side, can deal with numbers, comparisons, percentages, and we can use that to evolve, to do things, but it's like a step-by-step thing, and it turns into a rat race when you lose your focus, when you lose what really matters. And what really matters in live music is the musician transmitting whatever the musician has in herself or himself, because music is language. It is a very complex mathematical form of expression that uses sound as a transmission mechanism, and with the mathematics of the music we can express concepts and experiences which cannot be put into words, or words are not good enough means to describe. Words or pictures are not sufficient to describe those experiences. And that's why when you have a musician, those musicians are the really good ones who have life experience and who are telling their life experience through their music, and not those musicians who have tremendous skill. How often do you hear high-end audiophile recordings of a person playing an instrument absolutely skillfully, and you can tell that that person practiced thousands of hours, and he can play those strings faster than anyone on the planet, cleaner than anyone on the planet, and he has such virtuosity that he looks totally bored while doing things on those strings that are seemingly almost impossible, like a robot doing things. But he doesn't put his heart and soul, and none of his life experience shows in the playing, except those many hours which he is intent on just making those notes faster and more precisely than anyone. So you just get this transmitted to you from such playings, such performances, just a desire for fame, a desire for perfection, and it just fudges you up. And if that's it's kind of like there's a saying that we are what we eat. The food that you eat becomes you. The same is true for music. The music you listen to becomes you, and this is true for us audiophiles as well, and music lovers, is that the music you listen to becomes you. So if you are listening to music where the performer's goal is just to make clean sounds, and the desire for like acoustic resonance, just for the joy of making sound, then that's what you are going to absorb, and that's what's going to be stronger as a desire in you, and you will be drawn towards that, and it will eat you up alive, and you burn you up inside out, and it will hollow you out, because all of this music is hollow. There's just show, there's surface, superficiality, but there's no meat, no content, no substance. I rather implore everyone to listen to music which might not have been recorded with absolute engineering, mastering, perfection, but a person make that music who has life experience, who experienced the tough things in life, who has the wisdom and not just some untested knowledge. I know we are in the age of AI, but AI is the massive untested knowledge, lacking a shred of wisdom, a shred of connection to real life. And that's what high-end audio is. You want to go, if you are looking for long-term satisfaction, to have a stereo system that can translate music, that has any meaning to you, that can impact your life in any positive way, then look for performers who have substance. And when you found that, then look for the stereo systems that can present those performers in a way to you that the connection becomes stronger with them. And even when I was in my 20s, when I started in this audiophile obsession, this has been my main goal, to achieve that. To build a sound system that creates the strongest connection between the performer and myself, and the person who is listening to the performer. And I think I just kind of sidetracked myself to kind of a musical soul searching, and we didn't get into what is the difference here and what is the original acoustic space, how it is formed. So that will be part of the next video, and I hope that this episode just made you to look at your compass, at your musical compass, and find your musical north, and to help you figure out whether you've been going towards the right direction so far, or maybe you need to readjust. And if your compass has been right on, congratulations, you are further on the road than most people. And if not, then I really hope that you find your north fast and in the least painful and most joyful way. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.